Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into something super practical: pronunciation.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, whether you're gearing up for something like the IELTS, or maybe dreaming of launching a podcast, or just honestly want to feel more confident when you speak.
Right.
We're going to unpack some seriously useful strategies for making your pronunciation clear, crisp, and impossible to ignore. We've got tips from an IELTS expert, some notes on clear speech that are especially helpful for non-native speakers, and even a podcasting guide that's full of gems.
I love it. A real mixed bag.
Exactly.
So, one thing that struck me as I was going through all of this is that a lot of people think pronunciation is about getting rid of your accent or sounding like a super formal textbook.
Right.
But really, it's about being strategically clear, right? It's about making sure every word you say actually lands.
That's a great point.
So your message can cut through all the noise.
And that actually reminds me of something the IELTS expert really emphasized, which is self-awareness.
Ah, good one.
Like, before you even start trying to change the way you pronounce things,
Right.
you need to figure out what your own pronunciation pitfalls are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they call it identifying your problem sounds, the ones that can be a bit sneaky, especially if they don't even exist in your native language.
It's true. Our language background, it totally shapes how we approach new sounds.
Right.
And that's why, some sounds are way harder for some people than others.
For sure. And the guide actually gives some really fascinating examples. Like, it talks about how Arabic speakers often mix up the P sound and the B sound.
Yeah.
Or if someone's first language is Chinese,
Yeah.
those V and W sounds, those can be tricky.
Tricky. Yeah, for sure.
It's like our brains are just wired to favor those sounds we grew up hearing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And when you think about Indian and Pakistani speakers, the guide points out that they might confuse V and W saying, like wine for vine.
Oh, yeah.
Or they might replace the eth sound with T or DD, so thank becomes tank.
Yeah. I've noticed that.
It's so interesting. It's almost like a linguistic fingerprint.
Right.
These little patterns that kind of give away our language backgrounds.
Uh-huh.
But instead of seeing it as a problem, the expert actually suggests we use it to our advantage.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, they recommend recording yourself saying words like thought, weather, village, develop, and opportunity, just to see if you can pinpoint those sounds that need a little extra attention.
Like a pronunciation audit. I love it.
Right. And once you've kind of identified those sounds, you can really focus on mastering the ones that will make the biggest difference.
Totally.
And speaking of high-impact sounds, the expert actually goes on to highlight 3 sounds that IELTS examiners tend to zero in on.
Oh, interesting. Okay, lay it on me.
The dreaded sound.
Ugh.
The sometimes subtle dance between short and long vowels.
Oh, yeah.
And then the ever-confusing R and L sounds.
Ah, the classic.
It's like they handpick the sounds most likely to either make or break your clarity.
I see, yeah.
But the good news is they also offer some really practical tips.
Okay.
So for that tricky sound, they recommend placing your tongue between your teeth
Oh, yeah.
and blowing air
Okay.
softly for words like think, and with a little vibration for words like this.
Mm.
I remember struggling with that one for so long.
Yeah.
But the expert's tips, it actually kind of makes sense when you think about it. It's all about finding the right position for your mouth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They even have this fun little phrase to help you practice: 33 thoughtful thieves.
Oh, that's a good one.
It's like a tongue twister. It's designed to make you a thun master.
I like it.
Okay, so let's talk vowels. The expert says it's all about the shape of your mouth.
Mm.
Like smiling wide for those long vowels, like in sheep, and keeping things relaxed for the short vowels, like in ship.
Right, right.
Their example was the cheap chipmunk hid in the ship.
Yeah.
I can already feel my cheek muscles working.
Oh, me too. Me too. It's amazing, though, how those tiny shifts can create such a huge difference in the sound.
Yeah, it is.
And then for the R and L combo, it's all about where you put your tongue.
Oh, right.
The expert suggests thinking about a growling dog, slightly curling your tongue for that rolling R sound.
Yeah.
And then for L, it's all about touching the roof of your mouth with your tongue.
Uh-huh.
And they have another great practice phrase for this one.
Okay.
The librarian correctly arranged the red ledger.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right?
It's like a pronunciation workout for your tongue.
It is.
But seriously, it's fascinating how these tiny adjustments can have such a huge impact on clarity.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is amazing. And all this talk about individual sounds kind of brings us to another powerful technique that the expert recommends. Shadowing.
Shadowing.
And
Okay. It sounds kind of intense, right?
I mean, it makes me think of like pronunciation espionage or something.
Not quite. Not quite.
Okay.
Think of it more like vocal mimicry.
So it involves listening to these short audio clips of native speakers. They suggest things like IELTS, sample answers, or BBC Learning English.
Oh, okay.
And then you basically imitate their pronunciation and their rhythm as closely as you possibly can.
So it's like you're trying to become like a pronunciation chameleon, blending your voice in with theirs.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's really cool about shadowing is that it goes way beyond just the individual sounds.
Right.
It actually helps you internalize those natural speech patterns.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the subtle pauses, the intonation, the way sounds kind of connect.
Yeah.
All the things that make spoken language flow
Right.
smoothly and effortlessly.
Yeah, it's like you're absorbing the music of the language,
Yes,
not just the notes.
exactly.
And the expert recommends doing this for just a few minutes each day, right?
Yeah, even just these short bursts of shadowing can make a huge difference over time.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like a workout for your pronunciation muscles.
Oh, I like that.
You're building strength and fluency. And, speaking of clarity, our other sources had some really interesting things to say specifically about podcasting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They really emphasize that power of speaking slowly, like
Yeah.
even super slowly, especially for non-native speakers.
Right.
It's not something you hear every day.
You don't. It might seem a little counterintuitive at first,
Yeah.
but if you think about it, when you slow down,
Yeah.
you're giving each sound the space it needs to resonate clearly.
Yeah.
It's like you're giving your listeners this pronunciation roadmap
Oh, I like that.
so they can easily follow along and really absorb your message.
So it's not just about getting the individual sounds right.
No.
It's also about pacing yourself in a way that lets your listeners keep up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's almost like the difference between a mumbled speech and a powerful presentation.
That's a great way to put it. Yes.
And this applies even if your pronunciation of individual words is excellent.
Right.
If you're rushing through your sentences, all those sounds can just blur together.
They do.
And it creates this wall of sound
Yeah.
that's really hard to decipher.
Yeah.
And this kind of brings up an interesting question, I think. How do we strike that balance between clarity and still sounding natural?
That is the question, isn't it?
Because we don't want to sound like robots.
No, exactly.
So how do we find that sweet spot, clear enough to be easily understood,
Ugh.
but not so slow
Yeah.
that it feels unnatural or monotonous?
Right.
It's kind of an art, I guess.
It is. It is. And remember, the goal isn't to completely erase your individuality or your accent.
Right.
It's about using your voice as this tool
Yeah.
for clear and effective communication.
For sure.
And like any skill, it takes practice.
Yeah.
The more you practice speaking at a pace that feels both comfortable and clear to you,
All
the more natural it will become.
right.
It's almost like you're training your voice to be this precision instrument,
Yeah.
but one that still has its own unique tone and character.
I love that. And you know what's cool about this?
Right.
This advice isn't just for podcasting.
Right.
It really applies to any communication scenario
Absolutely.
where clarity is key.
Yeah, think about it.
A job interview,
Uh-huh.
a presentation,
Yeah.
even just chatting with friends
Mhm.
in a noisy environment,
Exactly.
speaking clearly
Mhm.
and at a pace that allows others to follow along.
Yes,
It can make such a difference in how your message is received.
it really does.
It's like leveling up your communication skills across the board.
Yeah, I love that.
Speaking of leveling up,
Yeah,
I feel like we've covered so much ground today.
we have.
Maybe it's time for a little recap,
Okay.
just to make sure all these amazing tips stick.
Yes, let's do it.
Where should we start?
Well, it all begins with that self-awareness we were talking about earlier. Remember those problem sounds?
Right.
That's our starting point.
Okay.
Grab your phone, record yourself saying those tricky words, and listen closely.
Yeah.
What sounds need some extra love?
Yeah, it's like you become this pronunciation detective, uncovering these hidden patterns that might be holding you back.
That's a great way to think about it.
And once you've kind of identified your sounds, then you can unleash all those expert tips. Remember those high impact sounds, that tricky T, the short versus long vowel dance, and the ever confusing R and L combo? We've got all those practice phrases and techniques to help you tackle them all.
We do. And don't forget about shadowing, right? Find a native speaker you really admire, grab some audio clips, and just become that pronunciation chameleon for a few minutes each day.
Right.
You'll be amazed at how quickly you can internalize those natural rhythms and patterns.
It's like having a pronunciation coach right in your pocket.
Exactly. Yeah.
And for anyone out there thinking about podcasting or any kind of recorded speech, remember that secret weapon? Slow down.
Yes. Yes.
Embrace those pauses and give every sound the space it needs to really shine.
Yes. Your listeners will thank you for it.
They will.
It really is all about clarity over speed,
Yep.
making sure your message is heard, understood, and remembered.
Right.
And that's where the true power of pronunciation really lies.
It does. It really does. So what does all this mean for you? It means you have the tools to unlock this whole new level of communication. It's not about erasing your accent or sounding like a textbook. It's about using your voice with confidence and with precision,
Absolutely.
making every word count.
Yes. And here's a final thought to kind of leave you with. Think about how often you maybe judge someone's intelligence or credibility based on how they speak.
Oh, yeah.
Now imagine flipping that script. Imagine being the one who commands attention, inspires confidence, and just leaves this lasting impression with every word you say. That's the power of clear, crisp pronunciation.
That's a great point. It's like leveling up your communication superpower.
It really is.
So keep practicing, keep experimenting, and keep celebrating all those small victories, because every step you take towards clearer pronunciation is a step towards unlocking your full communication potential. Until next time, happy speaking.
Happy